Hi, and welcome to Conversations to Connect. I'm Fenella Hawksley, and on this podcast we will be hosting conversations to share insights, research and knowledge to inspire change and to help people feel more connected. On today's episode, I am joined by Rui Marra da Silva Jr., a distinguished neuroscientist, hang gliding instructor, and two-time Brazilian champion and world record holder. Rui is deeply committed to the belief in the unlimited capacity of human evolution, a philosophy that has guided his extensive research and innovative approach to mental health and personal development. He is currently part of the Biociences and Health Research Group at Fiocruz and the Laboratory of Advanced Neuroimaging and Psychophysiology at the UFRJ School of Medicine, where he is pursuing a master's degree focused on breathing and meditation for anxiety and depression. Rui conducted a study on the impact of living in a vulnerable environment on mental health and the benefits of a sport program for social development. His research, conducted on athletes who participated in a social project in Rocinha, Brazil's largest favela, aimed to evaluate the impact of sport in a social project on overall quality of life, mental health, and heart rate variability. Hi, Rui.
Hi, Fenella.
Thanks for joining us. Could you introduce yourself?
Yeah, for sure. It's nice to be here with you. I learned many things with you also. Thanks to be here also. So my name is Rui. Just to share with you, I believe in quality of the communication. I believe in the unlimited develop for humanity. And I was the most care guy for heights in hang gliding, paragliding. And then I became a instructor for hang glider and paraglider. I had flown with over 35,000 persons. So I'm the life proof everybody can fly in the earth. And then to try to understand about the fear of my passengers for tandem flights, I did the formation in biopsychology to try to understand why people they say, I'm going to run on the takeoff, because you need to run like 10 meters on the takeoff, dealing with 500 meters of height. So they say, I'm going to run, and most of them, only 5% run properly. 95% they lose performance. So why? What happens in the brain? I studied this for 30 years.
And so now you're a neuroscientist.
Yeah, I'm a neuroscientist also, and I'm a biorecord. What a biorecord! I use the knowledge of the physiology of the body to help people also to know how to make emotional regulation. I'm a neuroscience with the focus on emotional regulation.
Mm-hmm. And you recently conducted a study about the impact of living in a vulnerable community on athletes and their responses to stress in Rocinha. Could you tell me a bit about that, the study that you conducted?
Yeah, I work in an NGO with the Jiu Jitsu athletes and Judo athletes. This NGO began, the name is Instituto Reação. It began with 17 athletes. Now we are 5,000 athletes in the favelas. So I'm also work for a lab of the Medicine School of Brazil, and we conduct a design experiment. We want to know if sports really help people in vulnerable areas. So we were observing 30 athletes of Jiu Jitsu of the favela and non-athletes also from the favela. And we use some psychometric studies, questionnaires, and also physiological biomarkers. So what we found, good answer. First positive thing, sports help people in vulnerable areas. But it we expected better physiological measures in the athletes. We didn't find it. Why? Because vulnerable areas also demand a lot from people in this area. And we found a subnotification of post-traumatic stress in all population. So we found it's important to develop public policies to to really to help people with subnotification of post-traumatic stress. Just an example, what we observe is like there's a COVID pandemic, but nobody's watching this yet. And okay, Rui, but what involved post-traumatic stress on the brain? Involved losses of cognition, social losses. So it's like, sometimes when we read on the newspapers, guys came from the Iraqi, the American navies, they came with post-traumatic stress. Sometimes they lose function for life. So we talking about something very extreme, even in the favelas, even with sports, it's not enough. We need public policies for this.
And I know you also said that sport on its own isn't enough. So what you were studying was sport within a social project context. I wonder if you could explain a bit about that and why sport on its own isn't enough to reduce the impact of post-traumatic stress and stress on the brain.
Excellent point. What we study, only the sport, without the values from an NGO or of a social project, the opportunity the athlete in the vulnerable area has it in the social project is like a rebirth. Imagine there are two babies. One baby rebirth only with the sports contest, and the other baby rebirth in the social project with sports. So the values of the parents, the social values, are going to be the GPS for this small soul for life. So when we don't have the values and only the sport, it's like adult development. But when you have a social project with social values, this GPS will work better concerning the social emotional abilities of this baby.
Does also the fact that being part of a social project makes you part of a community, which is like kind of what you said, makes you feel part of a family, and that also provides another element of support on the brain?
Very good point. When you are in the social project sports program, you become part of the community. In the community, that it's very difficult to live in the community like this. When you have like shots, bombs all the time, you're made to survive on your own. So in the social project program, you develop the belonging sense of the community. And when you develop this, you produce oxytocin. It's a neurotransmitter for happiness and resilience. So these biochemical rewards, they happen more in the social project program, not only with sports.
And when you say, but it's not enough, what do you mean by that?
Okay. We observe, even on the athletes of the social project, we observe their feeling for life are different from the non-athletes. It's okay. But the cardiac measures of the athletes from the social project, they are not enough high as we expected. Why? Probably it's because they live in this challenging environment. So the social project helps for sure. We measure this with psychometric questionnaires and with physiological parameters. But could be better. Could be better. Of course, they are better than non-athletes, but for an equality in the society with so many different parameters of economic parameters, these public policies are going to help for these also physiological parameters that we didn't find enough on the athletes.
Do you think also a level of understanding about how someone's background and environment can affect their performance at work and in life and in school is also needed.
Excellent point. This in this vulnerable environment, our brain is mandatory to survive. So if you all the time are in the readiness state, your brain is going to have the priority only to survive, not to think or create a strategy for life. So this vulnerable context doesn't let your brain develop completely for the area we call prefrontal cortex. Is the area responsible by empathy, by strategies, we call executive functions.
And I know that your study was working with people who did Jiu Jitsu. Does the fact that it's a martial art also reduce levels of stress and improve that because you're dealing with a stressful situation? And the threat, like the threat of fight, it's kind of the threat of fight or flight.
Another good point. When we are training Jiu-Jitsu with a social program or with the master, he's conscious of the importance of the social emotional values during the training. We have a hub in the brain responsible by deal with the fight or flight. This hub is included the cerebral amygdala and the insula cerebral. The insula makes the mediation in what you feel and what you're going to do in the brain. And the cerebral amygdala is responsible by your emotional brain. Mm-hmm. The emotional brain doesn't speak Portuguese, doesn't speak English. It speaks the language of the emotional. So when we are training Jiu-Jitsu, you are training how to deal with your frustration, and you train not abandon your position even you are frustrated. So you learn it step by step how to calibrate the sense of fear. Of course, with in the positive session of Jiu-Jitsu, orientated with the social emotional values. So you can train this hub of fight or flight. That's a good point of our meeting today. If I meet somebody in the elevator and I can say one phrase, I say, I have good news. We can train our sense of fear.
Interesting. And would you see the same results with capoeira?
Yeah, I can see also. I didn't measure, but I can see also similar effects to capoeira. Capoeira, I not as a scientist, but as a person, I think it's even more complete than Jiu-Jitsu. Why? Because in the capoeira, the children or the person learn how to play instrument. The capoeira also has some music, some interesting music. The person learns how to sing. So this helps also to unlock our sense of fear, even to speak in public.
It's the same also in capoeira. You have to perform in front of everyone in a roda, which I find scary. So that as well, that's training, because it's not just training your sense of fear in a fight, but also to be in front of other people.
Yeah, I strongly agree with you in this way. Again, until the 90s, the scientists thought there was an automaticity of the sense of fear. So if you're born like this, you're going to die with this calibration of fear. So in capoeira, with these movements to talk in front of the people, to do presentations in front of the people, if it's well orientated by the master, you again is going to be a very good training for life also, because the brain doesn't work in specific parts. The frontier of the neuroscience presents that the brain works in the quality of the connection. So the person who learned capoeira like this and had some challenges to do presentations in public, probably it will impact in the positive way their professional life, or even how to talk a relationship, how to behave in the discussion of a relationship.
What does this teach us about post-traumatic stress and the impact of prolonged stress on the brain?
Okay, post-traumatic stress, it can vary by two axes. One axis is the impact of the event. The second axis is the frequency. So, and also we're going to have some intrinsic factors of the person. So the way this person, the internal, cultural, and personal values of this person. So by this complexity, we have an overview of the post-traumatic stress in the person and the society. It can impact it so much that the person can be not function for the end of his life.
Is that what happened, after some soldiers in war?
Exactly. After some soldiers in war, it can happen this. Why? Because the emotional brain, the memory of the post-traumatic stress, doesn't speak English or Portuguese. So for this memory, for this brain, the emotional brain, looks like the event is going to happen anytime. So the person, the movements of the person are going to be prepare him for any time the event is going to happen. So it's never going to be in the present.
And how do you treat that?
How do we treat this? There's a complexity approach for this. Okay, you can use some medication to create a window of opportunity for psychotherapy, and then in this window of opportunity, there's a menu that you can use. It since theater, meditation, volunteer work, sports like Hawaii canoeing, because you practice the sense of belonging. Anyway, the psychotherapist needs to observe this as a complexity, not as a relation between cause and effect.
And what studies would you like to see being done further, like further studies? Because I know you said that this study that you conducted in Rocinha is one of the first of its kind.
The study now I would like to do it is a comparison between athletes from Rocinha, judo athletes in the social emotional, with the athletes not from the vulnerable areas.
Okay.
So this can be interesting. But also in our lab, they develop studies from psychedelics, and then it's very delicate, this subject. So the clinical studies of psychedelics on the impact of post-traumatic stress and depression.
Like LSD and...
Yeah, like LSD, ayahuasca. Ayahuasca, what else? Bufo or mushrooms. Because Brazil now is on the first stages of the clinical studies, because by the complexity of the human being, we cannot think that it's good and then we can do the publicity, make the publicity of this for people. We really have to be careful.
So I know that you're involved in social projects in Rocinha, judo and Jiu Jitsu. What do you think is the importance of these social projects, especially with the practice of sport, for the development of young people and adults?
Okay, more than what I think is what we measure. What we measure in this social project, we measure there's a relevant increase of the sense of the quality of life, even on the athletes. They live in the favela, compare the guys that don't live, that they live but they are not athletes. We measure these social projects, they prepare, they develop more social emotional abilities compared with the non-athletes in the favelas. Okay, now what can we see with these projects? These projects, they are complementary for public policies to help the society to have a better equality of life and also opportunities for everybody, because a person who develop themselves in the vulnerable areas, we observe cognition challenge. So these projects, they are like a rebirth chance for this population.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.